Throughout the year, our staff writes about the most interesting entrepreneurs across industries. So to close out 2025, we've collected the top 5 most unforgettable entrepreneurial highlights of the year. If you'd like to watch the full videos, we'll link them in the description. We're starting off with the king of the UFC ring, Dana White. He leveraged street smarts and risk to create a multi-billion-dollar fighting brand.
You know, people ask me this all the time. Did you ever envision this? Did you ever think that it would be this big? And the answer is always yes.
Good uppercut. Oh, he's down. That's it. Mario Yamasaki stops the fight.
We completely believed in this thing when we bought it. The question is the timing right? And the answer to that question is the timing couldn't have been more perfect.
The UFC essentially created the sport of mixed martial arts in the early 90s, but in the early days, it was really like cage fighting.
I had known what the UFC was, like a lot of people back in '93 when it started. You know, I watched the no rules events on pay-per-view and it was like, wow, this is crazy.
One of the most fascinating things about fighting is when you have somebody that looks like you, talks like you, and comes from where you come from, and they're looked at as the baddest human being on earth, your people surround you and support you.
What's important to remember is that at this point in time in the mid-90s, the UFC had a terrible reputation. Senator John McCain called it human cockfighting, leading a campaign that saw dozens of states and multiple pay-per-view providers to ban it. But there was an undeniable appeal to the fights.
My philosophy has always been, fighting is in our DNA as human beings. No matter what color we are, what country we come from, what language we speak, we like fighting.
Over the last 25 years, Dana White has turned mixed martial arts into a global phenomenon, and in turn made his UFC into a behemoth, generating an estimated $1.3 billion in revenue last year, with staggering EBITDA margins of almost 60%. But that money did not pour in overnight. It started more than 2 decades ago with a bi-coastal college dropout.
I lived in Massachusetts until like 5th grade. Then we moved here to Las Vegas. And then when I was 17, I went back to Boston. So I sort of bounced back and forth between the West Coast and the East Coast, and I got the best of both worlds. Got to meet a lot of different people, and obviously, you know, my roots in boxing started in South Boston, Massachusetts. Yet, there were a lot of opportunities and things that I learned here in Las Vegas that helped me, I don't know, shape me to what I would end up becoming.
White met Lorenzo and Frank Fertitta, who were the billionaire heirs to the Station casino fortune, during their stint at Bishop Gorman High School in Las Vegas during the late 80s. But it wasn't until a decade later, when they ran into each other at a mutual friend's wedding, that one of the most lucrative friendships in sports combat history would be solidified.
He said he was training boxers. He was kind of in that business, and he was also managing some boxers. And I said, oh, that's interesting. I was just appointed to the Nevada State Athletic Commission, one of the 5 members that regulates the sport of boxing in Nevada. And in kind of a funny way, if it wasn't for Adam Corrigan inviting both of us to his wedding, the UFC may not exist as it does today. And sometimes fate does that.
Me and the Fertitta brothers started doing jiu-jitsu together, and we fell in love with it. We became, you know, obsessed with it, training 3-4 days a week. And then we started to meet some of the UFC fighters. And we were like, wow, these guys are really good guys.
John Lewis was a guy who lived in Las Vegas, and he, at the time, was a UFC fighter. He was on the roster. We started training with John. We did one-on-ones. It was me, Frank, and Dana. And we fell in love with it. I mean, it just completely changed our perspective.
White was managing a few UFC fighters, and while talking to the company, realized it was in trouble. So he convinced the Fertittas to buy the UFC from Bob Meyerowitz before it went bankrupt.
I love risk. I love taking what I call, people would call chances. I like taking opportunities.
In January 2001, the brothers closed a deal to acquire the UFC for $2 million, naming White as the president and giving him a 10% stake.
We felt like what we had here is we had that brand. All of our smart attorneys and consultants told us, what are you guys doing? This is never going to work. How does this make any sense? And what we said is we're getting 3 letters, the UFC, and that's all that matters. And we'll build the business from there.
You want to talk about people not believing in the UFC? So think about this. When we bought this company for $2 million, we literally bought an old wooden octagon. We had 3 letters, the UFC, and like 12, 15 contracts, right? The old owner had sold everything, all the ancillary stuff away to Lionsgate. right? So Lionsgate owned everything, the merchandise, the video games, the DVDs. So we flew out to Lionsgate and they sold us the rights back. And I want to say it was like $3 million that was going to be paid over the next several years. So when we left, they were probably cracking up laughing, going, wow, this is going to look great on our books over the next 3 years. Now that those rights are worth, you know, hundreds of millions to billions of dollars. So when you talk about not believing, they own the rights to this thing. They never thought this was going to work.
It's pretty incredible that White, who was operating boxing gyms and had never run a big business before, was suddenly trusted to negotiate multi-million-dollar deals.
He really understood who the customer was and what the demographic was and how the product should be presented for it to be successful. He had this incredible drive. Like, he's so competitive and he would literally run through a wall to make it work. And I think looking back, if me and my brother would have said, we're gonna go out, we're gonna hire a Harvard MBA, we'd have been toast.
Up next, we meet the self-made billionaire Lucy Guo. The coding prodigy traded college classrooms for Silicon Valley, creating a data annotating company along the way. It is how she built her billion-dollar AI empire.
Thinking of myself as a role model, the one advice I try to give people is like, yes, it can sometimes feel like you're fighting an uphill battle being a woman. Discrimination does exist. I think that like you're going to have a lot more people that are hoping for your demise because they don't want to see a woman succeed. I just tell them like, it sucks, but like just work harder, prove everyone wrong, and use that as a driving force to win.
A 2018 30 Under 30 alum, Lucy Guo was named Forbes' youngest self-made woman billionaire in April of 2025, at only 30 years old. Guo is one of just 6 self-made women billionaires on the planet under the age of 40. She's also the only one who's made the bulk of her fortune from a company she left years ago.
I think that like we're about to see a lot more entrepreneurs be women and valuations grow at a tremendous rate. Like I wouldn't be surprised if someone else took the title next year, but it's really exciting to see.
Guo, who co-founded buzzy artificial intelligence startup Scale AI in 2016 with Alexander Wang, is now estimated by Forbes to have a net worth of $1.3 billion, largely due to her ownership of just under 5% of Scale AI.
I still live a very frugal lifestyle. Like for example, for lunch, I get like buy one, get one free all the time, or like, you know, the 50% off deals. If like one day I decide I need a private jet, maybe I'll sell some shares, but like at the moment, I'm very happy flying commercial.
Guo unseats pop star Taylor Swift, who has held the title since Forbes declared her a billionaire in late 2023.
Taylor has always struck me as someone that's like very pro-woman and wants other people to win. I am like a huge fan of her. I think she's an icon. I think that like meeting her last year, like it was a handshake. She probably doesn't remember who I am, was like the highlight of my entire year. So yeah, she's amazing and I hope she's okay with it.
Guo's parents, both electrical engineers, had migrated to the San Francisco Bay Area.
Growing up with Chinese immigrant parents really shaped who I am today. I think that like my Asian parents really valued discipline, they valued education, they valued money, right? They were extremely frugal and that was what allowed them to save up and invest and really help support like my education.
Growing up, Guo made her own money mowing lawns and selling Pokemon cards in order to buy the toys and clothes her parents considered wasteful.
I would hide my money inside like the middle of Harry Potter books or like other hiding spots really, but they just kept on finding it. I was like, I need this to stop.
On the internet, she discovered 2 things: a new way to hide her money electronically with PayPal, and a new way to make money, creating virtual pets on a browser-based game called Neopets.
I discovered like people were botting to essentially get these items and get these pets. So I started going on the internet to learn how to like make these bots, which is like very simple JavaScript code back then. And I just started making bots to be able to like auto adopt rare pets, like auto buy like morphine potions on the internet, etc. And I would just resell all these items and then make money. And then I could sell like 10 rare-ish pets and then get enough money to buy myself an extra rare pet. I think it was around like 2nd, 3rd grade when I was doing this.
Guo leaned into her entrepreneurial spirit, continuing to code well into her later teen years, studying computer science and human-computer interactions at Carnegie Mellon University.
I think like almost every single child in America, not just, you know, Asian children, are told, hey, you need to go to college, you need to study, get a good degree, get a good job. I just like felt like I wasn't learning as much in college as I was going to these hackathons. So these hackathons were like 24, 48-hour coding competitions held at various universities where you would make apps essentially and then win prizes. And I was learning like new languages. Like literally I learned how to like make iOS apps within a weekend at these events. I felt like I was learning more at these hackathons than I was in school. And I've always optimized my life for learning. So when the opportunity came to like drop out of college and be able to learn outside of school, I took it.
In 2014, Guo became a Thiel Fellow, a program sponsored by billionaire investor Peter Thiel to pay entrepreneurial college-age students to drop out or skip college and instead create companies.
I got to live in a house with like 20 Thiel Fellows who are all brilliant, and it really opened up opportunities for me. And even to this day, like every single one of the Thiel Fellows I've met, they're all doing incredibly well. And I think a lot of it is like their own drive, but also the resources that we all received from the outside world. People just wanted to help you if you were a Thiel Fellow, which was cool to see.
In 2015, Guo got a job as a product designer at question and answer firm Quora.
I felt like I would learn more working at a company and actually shipping products and seeing the impact that the products I shipped had versus like trying again on a new idea.
Guo left Quora and worked briefly at Snapchat, continuing her career in product design under a different kind of leadership with CEO Evan Spiegel.
When I first got to Snap, Evan was like, we don't do A/B tests here. And he was like very product oriented, and it was like very much so gut feeling where you would design something, he would just play around with it. And then like when it felt good, he was like, this is great. But he could also change his mind a lot.
About a year into her time at Snap, Guo reconnected with an old colleague, Alexander Wang.
I started getting the itch to build product again. So I hit up Alexander, who I had met at Quora, and I was like, hey, like, we should apply to YC. So we started working on a bunch of side projects. The first one was ClassPass for clubbing. Like, it was a total failure.
But while at the startup accelerator, Y Combinator, the duo's next project was a success. In 2016, Guo and Wang started Scale AI, a company that labels the data required to power AI.
I had essentially built up the entire operations team that labels data, and that today is still the main like thing the company does, right? Alexander was focused a lot on like sales to enterprise companies and like making revenue from them. And I was dealing with like thousands of scalers essentially complaining that they weren't getting payments on time, et cetera. And that just became like a little bit frustrating for me. We had like different priorities in terms of roadmap.
Customers grew to include the US government, which used Scale's tech to analyze satellite images in Ukraine, and OpenAI, which used it to help train ChatGPT. But in 2018, Guo left the company.
I'm very proud of what the Scale team has done. I think that like clearly like the company's doing very well, which means that like maybe Alex was right. Like it made more sense to focus on getting contracts. After leaving Scale, I was like, what have I not done before? And I've been an engineer, I've been a product designer, I've been a founder, I've done operations, but I had never done venture really.
After Guo left Scale, she started a small venture capital firm called Backend Capital to invest in early-stage companies. One of its best investments, a six-figure bet in 2020 on financial software firm Ramp, a company now valued at $13 billion. Guo not only financed these startups, she also lived in a house with a bunch of the founders.
Honestly, like I am at Passes today because I was in that environment. Like when living with these founders, I felt that energy, I felt the ambition. I was like, wow, like I want to build a company again.
In 2022, she shifted her focus away from the VC firm to start her own business called Passes, which is similar to Patreon and OnlyFans, a platform for creators and celebrities to connect with fans who pay for online chats and videos.
I ended up raising $9 million over text message for our seed round, which is crazy with like no deck, no real idea, no name. It was genuinely like the more incredible things I think I happened to pull off. I really do believe we are the first creator commerce platform. We're not just a subscription platform, but we really provide a toolbox for creators to monetize their brand and become an entrepreneur. So not only do they monetize off of subscription, but we have live streamings, we have like one-on-one video calling. We get to change people's lives every single day. We have creators tell us like, hey, like because of you, I'm able to support my family. I'm able to like buy a house. I'm able to pay off my loans. We literally see people's lives change overnight, where before they might have been making like $2,000 a month, and suddenly they're making like $100,000 a month. And that really is mind-blowing and life-changing for them. And it allows them the time to be able to pursue their passions, whether it is just creating content for their fans or it's an entirely new hobby.
Pass has also signed deals with celebrities including gymnast Olivia Dunne, basketball legend Shaquille O'Neal, and DJ Kygo. And it hosts big bashes like a recent event at the Coachella Music Festival.
I think in our business, emotional retention is incredibly important. There's only so much that you get in terms of like connection with a human being when it's over text message, email, Zoom, etc. And by having events at Passes, we're able to allow the community to get to know us better as a team, and then also be able to connect with other creators on our platform. I think our investors actually really want us to do more events because they realize the importance of emotional retention, and they believe that it is like a marketing tool. People, especially creators, care about being cool, and they want us to be a cool brand that does good events. I was actually told by one investor who was like, make sure none of your events are ever bad. And I'm like, okay, noted.
One glance at Guo's social media accounts and you'll see how she practices what she preaches.
Especially in the creator economy, things are built off of trust, and I'm very authentic on my social media. And I think that actually makes me different than a lot of founders out there who are more rigid in what they are posting because they want a certain image.
Passes is now valued at $150 million, adding to Guo's wealth. But her parents' passion for her education has never let up.
Even after scale, you know, I was like worth 9 figures, etc. They were like, so when are you going back to college? They were like, we don't even care what degree you get. You can study history, just like go back to college. I was like, wow, you'll let me study history? As I've grown up, I've realized like my parents may have been strict, but they've always just really wanted the best for me. And it feels nice that like now they're proud, so yay.
In a time when efficiency and volume are the priorities for content, media CEO Stephen Bartlett is taking the contrarian approach. He's connecting with his audience and interviewees through nitty-gritty specifics. Earlier this year, Forbes toured this entrepreneur's show to get a behind-the-scenes look.
We are here at FlightStory, and these are some of our studio sets. The next step for us is turning all of these spaces into digital screens. So the show behind me is Paul Brunson's show, and the show over there is Davina McCall's show. We've got another show behind you. The Diary of a CEO is in another building, but we're building out all of these sort of thematic sets that elevate the conversation, and we think a lot about a lot of the details. So we had about 2 months of debate just about the chair, because the chair has to represent the conversation. So on my show, which is kind of like having a difficult conversation with your parents about something, the aesthetic we've chosen is a bit gothic, a bit cold. It's silver, it's steel, and the chairs are like kitchen table chairs. They're like very upright, not that comfortable. But that is like having a conversation with your best friend over a coffee at home. Okay, so we have been in this building only for a couple of months now, so it's still being built as we speak. But if I take you over here, this whole space will remain open, and this is really kind of the launch pad. The company is called FlightStory, so it's all themed around flight and innovation and speed. I can actually show you some of the designs if you come over here. So these are what all the studios are going to look like. These are the digital screens that I was talking about, where we currently have the Diary of a CEO studio like this. It will eventually just be digital screens. The outdoor area is going to look a little bit like this. Through there, we're going to have our own coffee shop with a barista. And this is the entrance with the spaceman hanging from the roof. And you should be able to speak to it, tell it who you are and who you're here to see. You'll have a chat with the walls, and the walls will let you into the building. The best thing about this space, if I do say so myself, is the rocket. And I'll show you what I mean by the rocket. So there will be a 25-foot rocket here coming up into this space with planets orbiting it. And the planets that are orbiting it are all the companies within FlightStory. Useless absurdity will define you more than useful practicality. What I mean by that is it tends to be the case that the most absurd things a brand or company does end up mattering more to cementing who that brand is than anything else that they do. The thing that will be most memorable in our company and the thing that will cement our brand the most is when you walk into this space, it feels different. And you will not forget seeing a 25-foot rocket in the middle of an office with smoke coming out the bottom of it. So, and it's just cool, you know, and I think people don't put enough value on just like cool stuff. This is one of our mezz floors, again, brand new. We've got, I don't know, maybe 70 people up here, different teams, but this is where a lot of the editors sit for our shows, editing clips, editing the long form episodes, editing across all social platforms as well. We have over here the experimentation and failure team who are constantly testing and experimenting. If I move a little bit further on, we have some of our, I can tell by a lot of the stuff on their desks, even though they're not sat there, we have the social team here and marketing team. So producing social content, clips, etc., newsletters and all those kinds of things. Here, see that there is an important thing. This is the Experimenter of the Week trophy. This trophy every week goes to the person that has failed the most, conducted the most experiments, tried the most things. I've never won it. So I think there's some funny business going on, because talk about experimentation, it was my idea. And I've not won this thing once. So we're gonna fix that at some point, but this week it was deserved. So we've got our finance teams here, we've got the investment team here that are doing a lot of our investments in a lot of the companies in our fund. Actually, this is quite important. Let me show you this. So this is a picture of Jamal Edwards, who was really important in my story. He passed away 3 years ago, I think at the age of 31 or 32. But when I was in Manchester and I was 18 years old and I was dreaming about starting a business, he was the only young black man in the UK that hadn't come from money that I could see out there in the public who had really made a success of himself by building his own media company called SBTV. And so when I was 18, 19, 20 years old, I was on Skype, desperately trying to get Jamal's attention and desperately trying to ask him questions about business. When I got further down the line in business, I reached out to him and we met up and I actually interviewed him on the Diary of a CEO, and he gave me some incredible advice and I became great friends with him, and then he passed away. Really interesting that he sits in the office, because he is part of the reason why the Diary of a CEO exists. He's part of the reason why my career existed. I don't think people understand how much of an impact he had on so many people's lives. And I don't even think he realizes that, because a lot of them never got to tell him. So rest in peace and thank you to Jamal Edwards. In here, we have more of our teams. So I sit over there in the corner with my private office team, so like my chief of staff, my assistants and stuff like that, and some of my investment team. Finance teams here, we run a speaking division as well, so our speaking team sits there. And what I mean by speaking team is, we put on a lot of events. I do a lot of speaking, but all of our other hosts on our shows do speaking as well. So we have a team here that organize those events and manage our speaking business. Interestingly, you can see some drinks here. These are all actually investments we've made. This is the fastest growing, #ad. This is the fastest growing tea brand in the UK. Is he here? Teddy. It's called Perfect Ted. He's Teddy, so it's named after him. But
very egotistical, right?
No, but it's a great name. It was these guys that in my second year of Dragon's Den that taught me that what you should really be investing in is people with life force energy. It's like the best way I can describe it. Like people who have that thing that makes them move problems out the way. Some people put problems in front of them. Remarkable thing you see in business, like some people will say, no, we can't do it because. And then there's this other group of people that will say, we can do it because. And these guys, they have this energy where I don't think anything can stop them. So funnily enough, we have this survey that we send around to check if someone's aligned to our culture. And they scored almost perfect scores in terms of alignment with our current team. So when we were thinking about which of our investments to move into the building, absolute no-brainer, because they have the same energy. So another wonderful individual I shall introduce you to. Are you nervous? Because I'm bringing a camera around you.
Yeah.
Are you? Explain who you are, explain your story, explain what you're doing here.
So
I'm a Ukrainian refugee. I arrived to the UK after full invasion, and I set up a distribution company which represents Ukrainian brands and services, and I help Ukrainian manufacturers and businesses to save working places, which is really important right now. So yeah, everything around this project to help my home country to survive.
We met on Dragon's Den, where you pitched your business, and I was so blown away, in part by your business and the amazing products you have, but really more so by you as a person because of your like unflinching determination and sense of like mission towards helping your country. And so when I heard she was based in Huddersfield, and I felt that the best chance your business would have would be to be based in London and have some space and a warehouse, etc. She came and joined us in London and has been working here for how many months now?
Third.
The third month she's been here now, so it's wonderful to have you here.
What happens when you commit to the simplest of concepts with fanatical focus? Just ask Todd Graves, an entrepreneur who risked everything to get his fast food joint underway. From working as a Boilermaker or a commercial salmon fisher in Alaska, Graves raised just enough money to launch Raising Cane's, the now $22 billion chicken empire built entirely on one perfectly executed meal.
The story of how the first Raising Cane's came to be is a wild tale of two young guys in their early 20s doing whatever it takes to make their dream happen.
Todd was in entrepreneur mode. I was, I think, majoring in biochemistry. Todd was about to graduate in telecommunications. And we always wanted to start a business together. At the time, chicken fingers were trendy, mostly at casual restaurants. So it became this focus on how much volume we could pump through a relatively small place.
Most entrepreneurs start a business with a friend, right? You're going in, it's scary, right? And you're like, I want to be with somebody that will see it through with me.
We actually made kind of a pseudo blood pack. You know, we had like this chicken claw from the flea market, and we decided to kind of scrape our wrist and put our wrists together, and we said, you know, let's do this till the end.
Well, it's like, hey, we're going to commit to this. I want to make it. We're going to commit to success or failure, either way, but we're not going to quit.
And you know, when you're that young and you have literally hardly anything to lose, especially financially, it sounded like a fun commitment. And by then we knew that the only way we could do this was go 100%. So we knew we had to put together a business plan.
Sylvie had to write a business plan for a class, so the duo submitted their chicken finger concept, mapping out everything, even the brand of toilet paper they'd buy. The professor gave them a B-.
I got the worst grade in the class. The teacher said, it's a great plan. Look, I knew it. I wrote the Bible on a chicken finger restaurant. I knew what our aprons would cost that week. You know, I mean, I had it down to a science. So the plan was good, but the concept is flawed. It said, you know, one, serving just chicken fingers meals here in South Louisiana. We're known for our Cajun Creole food. Doing plate lunches, the variety that Cajun brings is like, one, I don't think that's a great like sector of the restaurant business to do here in Louisiana.
It kind of fueled us, and we had this such laser focus back then that, you know, we just kind of had this young attitude that we weren't going to listen to anyone.
I actually bought a cheap suit and went to Office Depot and bought an old briefcase that had the brass combination locks, right? And I thought this is what business people did. So I basically got every banker in town. I think there's some rule they have to take you if you want to go in and present a lending opportunity. I'd walk in, I'd open my combination lock and give a business plan. Then I was in my cheap suit and I would go through the business plan. Pretty much got the same response, right? You know, the bankers were nice enough to me, but they were like, you know, just chicken finger only concept here in Louisiana. And then I got the extra things from business. You have no money, no equity to put into this. You don't have years of management experience. Usually we look at 10 years at a minimum for somebody to start a restaurant, have that type of experience. We know you worked in high school and college, but you weren't a manager and I wasn't. And the common response is go work for some of the really great restaurant companies out there and learn from them. And then you'll be better set up to do a business. And I'm thinking, you know, it's not bad advice, you know, it's not terrible, but I'm an entrepreneur, you know, with every no, I'm getting more fired up and a chip on my shoulder to show you that I can do it. And so I just kindly said, well, you know, I appreciate the time and you're going to see my restaurant open and I hope you're a customer. After I got turned down by all the investors, I knew I had to raise money by myself on this. And so through a friend of a friend, I got a job working as a Boilermaker in refineries, doing turnaround shift work. You work these long days, hard work, it's hot as heck. You're in the middle of these towers, and I'm learning how to, work welding irons, blow torches. I'm learning how to direct in these huge flanges coming into this deal. When I was working so hard out there, the Boilermakers were the first really encouraging group to me. And they were like, you're going to make this chicken finger restaurant work. And I'm like, you believe it? And they said, yeah, you're working so hard for this.
You think that's what they saw, how hard you're working and how passionate you were? And
exactly. They saw that. And they said, you're going to back it. And we believe in your concept, and we believe you're going to be a success. From there, I met a fellow Boilermaker named Wild Bill Tolar. And Wild Bill was like, look, Todd, you really want to make some money for this chicken finger restaurant? I got something for you. I fish summers in Alaska in the sockeye salmon fishing trade. He's like, hard work, way more dangerous than this and actually harder than this, but you'll make a whole bunch of money. I think you'll be able to open your restaurant. So I was like, well, sign me up. Where do I go?
He got in touch with me to tell me about Alaska. At that time, I kind of just thought it was another crazy Todd idea. And then it turned into this whole adventure, but a very focused adventure. We told everyone that we're trying to get a job out there. They're like, why are y'all out here in Alaska? We're trying to raise money for a chicken finger restaurant.
Crazy work. During the peak of the season, we were working 20-hour days, which meant you get an hour nap here, 45 minutes here, 30 here, because that fish is coming. You're picking fish. And it's also very dangerous because most of these captains make their entire income for the year off this short summer period of fishing. We ran boats rammed us. We were catching so much fish, the waves were coming in the side before we could load off to a tender boat that was going. National Geographic's flying planes over, medical helicopters coming in. You're hearing on the radio, somebody died, somebody got thrown out with a net or got crushed, all these things. And I was out there financing this chicken finger dream.
The chicken finger dream kept you waking up in the morning, going back out there and doing it.
Absolutely.
Now we shift from massive American fast food to luxury European delivery. Forbes met the 3 London-based entrepreneurs who started Pasta Evangelists in 2016, operating out of a tiny basement in Notting Hill. Since then, sales have soared, and we got a behind-the-scenes look into their upgraded factory, pumping out fresh pasta subscription boxes for the masses.
So we are in the Pasta Evangelist Pasta Academy in London, in Farringdon, in the old heart of London. This is where we teach our guests to come and learn how to make fresh pasta. The reason we have our Pasta Academy is because Pasta Evangelist is the authority in fresh pasta. And we don't believe in just saying we're the authority and in marketing language. We actually wanted to show our customers, our audiences, that we are the authority. Our events business is a small part of our overall business, probably about 10%, but it's extremely profitable because ultimately our costs in the Pasta Academy are essentially low. So in terms of the bottom line, it's a significant profit generator for Pasta Evangelists. We opened our first Pasta Academy where we're standing in 2022, early 2022, and demand has been so high for our classes. We're the #1 ranked food experience in London on TripAdvisor. So the demand has been huge, word of mouth has been huge.
I introduce myself as a chef Alex here. I'm to run like about 8 classes per week. Working with the marketing team is amazing. We're having like this brainstorming of ideas during the meeting, and we're having so many initiatives that we're doing for many things that are happening during the year. For instance, Roberta, she created a shape which was completely like dedicated for the Chinese New Year, for the Year of the Dragon.
Roberta Delia is Pasta Evangelist's head pasta artisan, and who Finn refers to as the woman behind Pasta Evangelist's Fresh Pasta Renaissance.
I always been in the food industry. I started very early. I started because I had to basically try to support myself at the university. So I started in a little restaurant in my hometown in Foggia, and then I thought, wow, this is actually my job. And since then, I never stopped. My day can start with a video shoot, or it can start in this kitchen trying to, produce a new sauces, trying to make, something different. That's what we did a couple of months ago, creating our Pasta Dragon. So my day can be in any part of the business. Welcome to our pastificio. This is our main room where we produce the fresh pasta.
At the moment, we are making the tagliatelle. So this machine is starting to stretch the dough. The dough is made with the semola and water. The machine will stretch the dough. Getting into shape is from here. So this is made with semola, rimacinata, and water. So it's simply 2 ingredients, and it's going to be processed in the big machine where both ingredients, they're going to be mixed together, and then we start to stretch the dough. It's very important, the stretching, so you get the right consistency. This is the area where we produce the sauces. So here behind me you will see a really large pan, and we are currently producing cacio and pepe. So here we'll be putting all the ingredients. The machine slowly will cook and then finish off the product. Well, from here will be then moved to the another room where we can pack in individual packaging. So here, and that's basically the final product. And this is ready to go. Come this way, guys. Today we have made, this is one of my favorite, melanzane alla parmigiana. And is used for our antipasti, so it's a kind of a starter. And you can see also at the bottom we have one of our pesto lasagna, which is with one of our best sauce, which is basil pesto. This one we mainly use for our takeaway kitchens. So he will be baked, then sealed and sent to our kitchen, then to be distributed around the customer that they order the hot food, so the takeaway food. This is the finished product for our customer at home.
Although we're in our pasty feature, and as you can see, it's a huge, almost industrial premises, it's really important to us that our gastronomy remains Italian, remains authentic, but it's also important that we use sustainable ingredients. Where it's necessary, we will use Italian products. Where it's not necessary, we use local products from the UK. So for example, tomatoes, you know, for our best intentions in the UK, we don't grow tomatoes. We do, but not very nice ones. So tomatoes come from Italy. Mozzarella cheese, by definition, it comes from Italy. But if it's a matter of, you know, a simple cabbage, for instance, it's going to be from the United Kingdom. Anything we can get here, you know, close as possible to kilometer zero, we will do it. Average price point completely depends on the channel, but in our takeaway business, for example, if a customer is ordering a delivery and they're going to have, let's say, some of our basil pesto lasagna, it's going to cost around 11 to 12 pounds. Something like a carbonara, 10 pounds, 11 pounds. The entry price is around 8 pounds, which will be your simple tomato sauce.
From disruption to lasting impact. The entrepreneurial stories of 2025 remind us that true success isn't just about spotting a trend, it's about becoming one.